Hi everyone, and welcome along to week 10. This week we're going to be tying a beadhead pheasant tail nymph for the Potteries Fly Tying Club beginners class. In the vise I've got a partridge of radish G3ALY, which is a sprout nymph hook in size 12. And on the front of that I've got a fulling mill 2.8mm painted tungsten bead, fluorescent orange. Okay. The thread for this week is the Semperfli waxed again. I'm going to be using this in a 12-0, and the reason I'm using the Semperfli waxed is because it's an easier thread to split than the Uni 8.0 that we normally do. We're going to be splitting the thread at the end and just popping in a little bit of CDC. So start just behind the bead. Okay, a few wraps on. Trim off your excess. Okay. And this is a bit of Uni soft wire, number 33 copper, bright copper this is. Okay, so pop that underneath, over the top, and we're going to be putting this onto the side of the hook, so on the side all the way down. You do need to do your thread control the same as you normally would. Always need to do your thread control. The most important part of any fly. Go along to just about where the bend starts, and you can worry off this end here. Okay, take a few pheasant tail fibres now, perhaps half a dozen or so, and line them up off the stalk so that they've got so that they're all nice and straight, nice level tips on them. Okay, you want that about the length of the hook, and you're putting that straight on top, so we're going to pinch and loop that onto the top. Okay, and if you bring this up, just keeping it on the top, but just wrapping it. Okay, and bring it up until you get to just behind the bead, and then fold it back, still keeping it on top until you get about halfway back down. Okay, and then take your scissors and just snip that off at an angle, and that will help to form the taper on the fly. Once again, this is a fly where we've got very little covering the body, so it's quite important to get the taper right on the body. Okay, just build that up a touch. What we're going to do now is take another bunch of fibres. Aim for a little bit further up the feather for these ones. You perhaps want 4 or 5, but you do want slightly longer fibres on these ones. Okay, and what we're going to do with these is we're going to square the tips up, but we're going to turn them, so we're going to tie them in by the tips. Okay, so just tie that on top, put a couple of loose turns on, and just pull them down until the tips are right near where you've tied in. Okay, tie that in right the way down until it gets to where the tail is, and then bring your thread back up, again forming that nice taper. The reason we tie these in by the tips is because the tips are obviously a thinner part of the feather fibre anyway, so they would naturally, as they get up towards the head, they will form a thicker area. Okay, I'm just going to build that up behind the bead a little bit. Okay. What I'm going to do now is take all of these fibres, make sure they lay nice and straight, make sure you don't twist them as you put them up, and just wrap these up in nice, neat touching turns. What you should see is that the fly starts to get thicker, the nymph starts to get thicker as it gets towards the head end. You can go virtually up to the eye with this, up to the bead with this, sorry, and tie them off. Okay. You then need to just snip off your ends. Okay, and then we're going to take the copper, but we're going to counter wrap the copper. Nice straight turn, nice evenly spaced turns. I'm going to counter wrap that so that A, it protects, and B, it stands out a little bit more. Nice evenly spaced turns on the copper until you get to the head. Okay, and then bring that over to tie off the copper. Okay, and just work that until it snaps off. There we go. What we're going to pop on now, just going to pop a very small amount of dubbing in just behind that head. Just a nice darkish brown, just to enable us to just pick out a few of the fibres to give some indication of legs. On the standard pheasant tail, you would do this with your thorax cover. You bring it forward, and I'll show you that one in the class anyway. But I'm just going to put a short, small amount of dubbing on there, just behind the head, with a little bit of sparkle in it as well. And that just lets us pick out a few of those fibres. Okay, now we need to spin the thread until it's flat. Okay, and then you need to take your, what I've done is I've preloaded and pre-folded some pheasant tail fibres into my Potteries clip, so they're ready to go in. So what we do now is we take a dubbing needle and we just lift this until we get to a point where it's sitting nice and flat. Okay, you can see it there flattening out. Once you get to a point where it's nice and flat, just use the end of the dubbing needle, slide it back, and use that to split the thread into two. So you get a section that looks something like that. Okay, pop your fibres in. So pop your thread up onto your clip, and then slide your clip while you've got a little bit of pressure on the thread. And then take them out once they're like that. Now hold up with your finger and spin in a clockwise direction. So you're putting some twist back into the thread this time. Because you're holding it with your finger, you're not moving all of the fibres around. What you will do is, once you've put in that clockwise twist, if you release the tension on your finger, you'll see that those fibres then start to twist. Okay, and they've twisted up quite nicely. You just wrap those around. It just gives a little bit more messiness at the head of the fly. Okay. Before you do your whip finish, it's important that you counter spin. So you spin in a counterclockwise direction, because you've added in, when you spin up in a clockwise direction, you add tension into the thread. So if you spin in a counterclockwise direction, it takes that tension back out, and you'll find that it will break a lot less. A lot of people break thread when they've not in the proper thread control. So come up, just put yourself a couple of whip finishes in. Again, because we're not using any varnish this week, the same as last week, I usually put 2 whip finishes in. Okay, and then snip that off. Yeah, sorry, go slice that off, nice and close to the head. And that's the week 10 fly complete. Thank you.